The Department of Justice is moving forward with its high-profile case against former FBI Director James Comey, signaling its intent to pursue the indictment with full force. This decision comes after months of speculation and legal maneuvering, as both sides prepared for what is shaping up to be a landmark trial. The DOJ's commitment to upholding the charges reflects the seriousness with which it views the alleged offenses, and the agency has made it clear that it will not back down in the face of public scrutiny or political pressure. Recently, Comey's legal team filed a motion to dismiss the charges, arguing that the case lacked merit and was politically motivated. However, the presiding judge swiftly rejected this motion, affirming that the evidence presented by the prosecution warrants a full trial. This ruling marks a significant setback for Comey's defense and ensures that the case will proceed to the next phase in court. The charges against Comey are serious and multifaceted. Among them is the accusation of making false statements to federal investigators, a charge that carries significant legal consequences if proven. Prosecutors allege that Comey knowingly provided misleading information during official proceedings, undermining the integrity of the justice system. In addition, Comey faces allegations of obstructing a congressional proceeding. According to the indictment, he is accused of interfering with an official investigation by withholding key information and attempting to influence witness testimony. These actions, if substantiated, could constitute a grave breach of public trust and the rule of law. Despite the mounting legal challenges, Comey has entered a plea of not guilty to all charges. His legal team maintains that he acted within the bounds of his authority as FBI director, and that the prosecution's case is built on a misinterpretation of the facts. The stage is now set for a dramatic and closely watched legal battle, with both sides preparing to present their arguments before a national audience. The Department of Justice, for its part, insists that its case is grounded in solid legal principles and is not influenced by partisan considerations. DOJ officials have emphasized that the investigation was conducted independently, with strict adherence to established protocols and procedures. They argue that the evidence against Comey is compelling, and that the charges are justified by the facts uncovered during the inquiry. The court's decision to deny the motion to dismiss is a pivotal moment in the proceedings. It signals that the judge believes there is sufficient evidence to warrant a trial, and it places the burden on both the prosecution and the defense to make their cases before a jury. If the court had granted the motion, the case would have ended immediately, sparing both sides a lengthy and costly trial. However, with the motion denied, all eyes now turn to the upcoming trial, which is expected to draw intense media coverage and public interest. The trial is currently scheduled to begin in January 2026, giving both legal teams several months to prepare their arguments, gather evidence, and line up witnesses. The outcome of this trial could have far-reaching consequences, not only for Comey himself, but also for the broader landscape of American law enforcement and government accountability. The case has already sparked heated debate across the country, with supporters and critics of Comey voicing strong opinions about the charges and the motivations behind them. This legal clash is unfolding against a backdrop of deep political polarization, raising questions about the impartiality of the justice system and the influence of politics on high-profile prosecutions. As the trial approaches, the nation will be watching closely. The outcome will not only determine Comey's fate, but will also set a precedent for how similar cases are handled in the future. The integrity of the judicial process, the credibility of law enforcement, and the public's trust in government institutions all hang in the balance. At the heart of Comey's defense lies a complex intersection of law, politics, and the ever-expanding influence of digital communication. In today's world, where a single post can reach millions in seconds, the boundaries between public opinion, political rhetoric, and the justice system are increasingly blurred. This case is a striking example of how the digital age has transformed not only the way we communicate, but also the way justice is pursued and perceived. Central to the controversy is a social media post by former President Trump, published on Truth Social, that has become a lightning rod in the legal battle. The post, aggressive in tone and widely shared, did not simply express an opinion. It called for direct action, demanding the prosecution of Comey and others, and labeling them guilty as hell. The immediacy and reach of this message amplified its impact, making it impossible to ignore in the context of the unfolding legal drama. The timing of Trump's post is particularly significant. Just days before Comey's indictment, the former president's words reverberated across news outlets and social media platforms, fueling speculation and debate. Headlines blared, pundits weighed in, and the public was left to wonder, was this a spontaneous outburst, or a calculated move to influence the course of justice? The spectacle of Trump at rallies, smartphone in hand, underscored the power of a single voice to shape the national conversation. Comey's legal team seized on this moment, arguing that the post was more than just political theater. To them, it was evidence of a deeper problem, a justice system vulnerable to the pressures of political power and public opinion. In court, they contended that Trump's words were not idle threats, but a clear signal that the prosecution was being driven by political motives, rather than impartial legal standards. The defense's argument hinges on the idea that Trump's post acted as a directive to the Department of Justice, subtly, or perhaps not so subtly, pressuring officials and the grand jury to take action against Comey. They claim that the timing and content of the post were no coincidence, but rather a calculated attempt to sway the legal process. The grand jury, tasked with impartiality, now found itself at the center of a political storm, its actions scrutinized for any hint of outside influence. Reports from inside the Justice Department suggest that Trump's message was received loud and clear. The post, widely circulated among officials, was interpreted by some as a direct message to the U.S. Attorney General, raising questions about the independence of the investigation. For Comey's defense, this added significant weight to their claims, painting a picture of a prosecution shaped as much by political calculation as by legal merit. Now, the court faces a difficult question. Did Trump's words compromise the impartiality of the prosecution? The judge must weigh not only the facts of the case, but also the broader implications of political speech in the digital era. The scales of justice, already burdened by public scrutiny, must balance the right to free expression against the need for fair and unbiased legal proceedings. For the defense, the social media post is more than just a piece of evidence. It is the linchpin of their argument that the case against Comey is politically motivated. At press conferences and in court filings, they point to the post as proof that the prosecution is less about justice and more about settling political scores. Legal documents, marked evidence, now include screenshots and timelines of digital activity, underscoring the central role of social media in the case. This argument presents a profound challenge to the judiciary. Judges and attorneys must grapple with the unprecedented impact of political speech on the administration of justice. The debate extends beyond the courtroom, raising questions about the limits of presidential influence, the responsibilities of prosecutors, and the resilience of the legal system in the face of public pressure. The judiciary panel, tasked with upholding the law, must now also defend the integrity of the process itself. Ultimately, the case of Comey versus the government is about more than one man's fate. It is a test of how the justice system responds to the disruptive power of social media and the relentless pace of the digital news cycle. As digital screens light up courtrooms and social media icons hover over the halls of justice, the nation watches to see whether the courts can remain a place of fairness and impartiality, or whether the digital broadside will forever change the way justice is done. Comey's defense hinges on claims of vindictive prosecution. They argue the indictment is retaliation for Comey's criticism of the Trump administration. The defense cites Trump's social media post as evidence of pressure on the DOJ. They claim prosecutors were coerced into action, regardless of the case's merits. The defense must prove a likelihood of vindictiveness to shift the burden to the government. Success would challenge the DOJ's integrity and set a precedent for future cases. The DOJ counters claims of vindictive prosecution with a strong rebuttal. They argue Trump's statements don't prove a vindictive motive. The DOJ insists the decision to prosecute was independent and evidence-based. They emphasize the separation between political rhetoric and legal decisions. The filing portrays the prosecution as routine, not influenced by Trump's post. The DOJ asks the court to trust its impartial processes and uphold the law. Comey's defense challenges the legality of Lindsay Halligan's appointment as U.S. Attorney. They argue her appointment was unlawful, rendering the indictment void. Halligan's past as Trump's attorney raises questions of impartiality. The defense claims her appointment violated the Constitution's Appointments Clause. They suggest Halligan was installed to carry out a political vendetta. This argument questions the structural integrity of the prosecution. The court must rule on the executive branch's appointment powers. The defense argues the indictment is a nullity due to Halligan's appointment. They claim her lack of legal authority invalidates the indictment. The argument focuses on constitutional principles of checks and balances. The defense aims to win on a legal technicality, avoiding the indictment's facts. A ruling in Comey's favor could have far-reaching consequences. The court faces a serious constitutional question with potential ripple effects. The DOJ defends Halligan's appointment as legal and constitutional. They argue it complies with federal law for filling vacancies. The DOJ insists Halligan's role doesn't require Senate confirmation. They separate her past work for Trump from her current duties. The DOJ aims to neutralize the nullity argument and focus on evidence. They argue the prosecution was authorized and executed by the book. The case unfolds under intense public scrutiny and political polarization. Comey's defense claims political pressure influenced the DOJ's decision. The government must show resilience and impartiality amid external noise. The court must navigate this charged environment, maintaining fairness. Public perception plays a significant role in the trial's outcome. The DOJ defends its procedures to maintain public confidence. The case tests the judiciary's ability to serve as a neutral arbiter. The judge's decision on the motion to dismiss is a pivotal moment in the legal saga surrounding James Comey. This ruling will determine whether the case proceeds to a full trial or ends here, shaping not only Comey's future, but also the broader narrative about justice and accountability in America. Legal experts and the public alike are watching closely, aware that the implications of this decision could ripple far beyond the courtroom. The stakes are high, and the outcome will be scrutinized for years to come. If the judge rules in Comey's favor and grants the motion to dismiss, the case will come to an abrupt end. Such a decision would not only vindicate Comey, but also lend weight to his claims of political interference and improper targeting. For Comey and his supporters, it would be a moment of triumph, signaling that the justice system can still act as a safeguard against overreach. The media would likely swarm the courthouse, capturing reactions from both sides, as the nation debates what this means for the rule of law. However, if the motion is denied, the case will move forward to a full trial. This would open the door to weeks or even months of intense legal proceedings. The focus would shift to the presentation of evidence, the credibility of witnesses, and the arguments of both legal teams. Every detail would be dissected, as the trial becomes a battleground for competing narratives about justice, power, and political motivation. The public would witness a rare and dramatic legal showdown, with the outcome far from certain. At the heart of the trial would be a clash between the Department of Justice's official narrative and Comey's assertions of political targeting. Both sides would marshal their best arguments, calling on expert witnesses and presenting complex evidence. The courtroom would become a stage for a high-stakes confrontation, with the eyes of the nation fixed on every development. The legal teams would spar over the facts, the law, and the very meaning of justice in a polarized era. Ultimately, the outcome of this case will set the tone not only for Comey's future but also for future legal battles involving high-profile political figures. The verdict will be seen as a reflection of the current state of the American justice system, its strengths, its vulnerabilities, and its ability to withstand political pressure. Whatever the decision, it will be analyzed and debated by legal scholars, politicians, and citizens alike. This case stands as a landmark moment at the intersection of law and politics, highlighting the delicate balance between the two. It raises profound questions about the independence of the judiciary, the limits of executive power, and the role of public opinion in shaping legal outcomes. As the proceedings unfold, they will serve as a test of the nation's commitment to fairness and due process. In the end, the trial forces a national conversation about justice in a deeply divided America. It compels citizens to reflect on what justice truly means, and whether the system can rise above partisanship to deliver it. As the country watches, the outcome of Comey's trial will echo far beyond the courthouse steps, shaping the future of American democracy.